and motivation. May the powerful truth in 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 27 be your portion. Say amen. Now I believe some of you might have said amen. Some believe that anything coming from the Bible. So let's read. Let's read from 2 Kings chapter 5. 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 27. And I read, "Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever. And he went out from his presence as white as snow." So, you must always verify information before you accept it. That is the baseline I want us to consider today. Please always verify information. We are educated. We should not allow politicians to just throw dust into our eyes, saying that this person didn't do this. Meanwhile, the person had done that. Or lie. Please let us, in religious circles, in political circles, in our private life, we must verify information before we accept it. May God bless us. Today we are looking at drill methodology. Okay, when we talk about drill, it's an exercise which students work items, usually one at a time, and to receive feedback on how correct they are. Now, why drills? Drills has all the benefit of questioning. So, it gives immediate feedback on student performance, saves teachers time correcting students, it motivates students to do practice. Now let's look at some limitations. Perceived misuse. Yeah, people believe that there are people who are using drill and practice wrongly. Like this mental. So, if you have not taught the child the multiplication table, you cannot use it on the child. So you cannot use drill and practice to present a new information. Constructivists are also criticizing the drill that students, when they use it, they are not constructing their knowledge. So it's no good. Now, drills are also not effective when students are not prepared enough. So when students have not learned the information, the drill is needless. Let's look at some 3 types of drills. We have flashcard activity, we have branching, and then extensive feedback. Now for flashcard activity, it's like a linear tutorial. Just as you show flashcards to students for them to mention, when they get it, you put it down and pick another one. So you present the items to them, they answer, you retire them and pick another question. That is the flashcard activity. Okay, then we have the branching drill. The branching drill. Now, when you talk of the branching drill, we are talking about a software that takes into account performance. So, just as I explained in the tutorial, branching tutorial, So when students are able to answer certain questions correct, you must know their level and place them at the correct level. Okay. Then extensive feedback. Now, with the extensive feedback, when it can be either a flashcard activity or a branching drill. But then, when you give an answer, your feedback that contains why your answer is correct or wrong. Okay. Let's look at the structure. So we have the introductory session, we have select item, the same structure. So the introductory session, we'll look at what goes in there. Then you select an item, questions, select the questions, you answer the questions, so question and response, you judge the response, then there can be questions and item selection, you judge responses, and then you give feedback. Then students can select another question and then can do that. So you select the question, you answer the question, you are judged, it gives you feedback. You select an item or question, you are judged. Then if you want to exit, you close. Okay. Let's look at the introduction. The introduction of a drill, aside what we have discussed in the general features, must include the number of items to be presented. So the number of items to be presented to the learner must be a decision taken by the designer or subject matter expert. So you want them to answer questions on, let's say, in JHS1 ICT. So you can decide that in the first set of questions, I'm going to give them 20 questions. Then the next one, I'm going to give them 15 or 30. So it depends on the subject matter expert. Now, younger learners should not be choosing difficulty levels. So if there are younger learners or people, novices, they must start from the bottom, the first level. But if there are adults, they can choose difficulty level. Okay. Now, learners must be presented with, at the introductory, list of items to be practiced. So, at the introductory side, you must let them know the number of items they will practice. So, in this lesson, we have 5 practice. So, practice 1 involves 20 objective filling questions or 20 objective questions. So you let them know that. Now, learners can have the ability to select the information to practice. So they can decide to practice, select practice on photosynthesis, select practice on matter, select practice on this. Anyway. Now let's look at item or question characteristics. Questions are known as items. Okay. 1. Let's look at the item moves. You can have text-to-text information. You can have, so text, the question is text and the answer text. And then you can have an auditory text, auditory to text. So the question is, the question is said in the local language, and they can type or select the English version. Okay. Text to pictorial. So the text and they select a picture. Picture to text, auditory to picture, picture to auditory, picture to visual, and text to numeric. So all these are the different item modes that you can give to the learners. Now you must also check the item or question difficulty. I'm using question and item interchangeably for you to get it. So the item or question difficulty, must check it. It must be constant. If level 1, for level 1 questions, they must all be of the same difficulty. When you go to the second level, they must be all the same difficulty level. So as you increase, then you increase the difficulty level. And you must also group items by difficulty level. Okay. Now, another question is, how do I generate the questions? How do I generate the questions? Now you can generate the questions in 3 ways. 1, the list selection. That is what we normally see. So questions are you have several questions. So generally, just as I've said, the list selection is presenting the items as they are in the question bank. So you must have question bank, you must have a group of questions which you are going to select from. Okay, that is the list selection. And then we also have generation by algorithm. You can have an algorithm. You can generate your own algorithm of how you want the questions to come. How you want the questions to come. So in this case, let's say you want, if this question comes, that question should follow. So you should have your, you can write an algorithm to let questions flow, come that way, be presented to the learner. And then you can have a combination of the list and the algorithm. So you generate an algorithm and it shows a list of items. Okay. Okay. So let's look at item selection and queuing procedure. Okay, so once you have the items, you have your questions. How do you select them? Now we have random selection where you have 100 questions and then the first one, item 1 can be presented to the learner, then followed by item 100, item 22, that is a random selection. Okay. Now we also have organized queuing, and we have two types. The first type is the flashcard queuing, where you show the question to the learner. If the learner gets it right, the question goes away, it is retired. But when the learner gets it wrong, the question is put at the end of the item list. So it comes again for the learner to answer. Okay, then we have variable interval performance queuing. Now you can say that, okay, for that question the person missed, I'm going to place it at the 5th question after where the person missed the question. So let's say you presented to the person how many regions has Ghana, and the person said 17. The person is wrong. So after 3 or 5 questions, you can decide to ask that question again. Okay. Now, there is a problem. The problem is when students are answering, learners are answering the questions, at times there are no, for most of the tutorials I've seen, there are no opportunities for students to exit. You should provide what you call termination. Students should be able to end the drill at any point. So we can have a temporary termination, and you can have a permanent termination where you end the program entirely. Okay, so there is also another problem with the queuing parameters, that if, for instance, with the variable interval, the person misses a question and is placed at another point. So the problem is there are 20 questions. The person has been able to answer 10 of them. Then he has missed the 11th one. So you can say that the question must be placed at maybe the 12th, the 8th. Meanwhile, now we have about 9 questions. So if you say that the question should be placed at the 15th question, then there will be a problem, because there are no 15 questions. There are only 10 questions or 9 questions. Okay, so this is a problem. Now this can be solved by 2 things. One is resurrection. Resurrection is where you allow, you bring in back questions the person has already answered to add up, so that you can place the new questions there. So with the example I gave, you have 20 questions, the person has been able to answer 10. The 11th question, the person gets it wrong. In your program, it's supposed to put it at the, let's say, 12th question. It's supposed to be at the 12th. So you need about 2 more questions. You need about 2 more questions to get 11 before you can place the one at the end. So you have to resurrect. You have to bring back questions the person has already answered. Bring back so that you can get the 12. Okay. Then you can have premature termination. That is, you are answering 100 questions. The person has been able to answer 90. It's left about 10. And if you miss, you need to place it at a certain position. Now, the position is no more. If 30th position is no more, unless 1 to 10, you can decide to terminate the program. look at what the person has done, and then you give the feedback on it. Okay. So this is a commercial break. Okay. Let's look at feedbacks. Feedbacks are very necessary in drills. Whenever there is a student gives a response, you must give a confirmation whether it's wrong or correct. And it must be immediate and corrective, just as we said in the tutorial. The feedback must be short and positive. Good. Then item grouping. You see, you cannot have all items in one pool. You must group your items. You can group by maybe levels, or you can group by levels or courses or topics. So assuming you want to have a BC drill, there's one thing you can do, that you design a drill that the student, you have students answer past questions. So you put all the past questions in there, then students answer. Good. So in doing that, you must categorize them. So you can put them in groups. So you can put together matter topic questions on matter, put together questions on photosynthesis, put together chemical element and all that. Or you can also put together questions on first year items, second year items, third year items. So that when the person is taking the quiz, the person takes a quiz on all first year topics. Then after the person is done and as the person has passed satisfactorily, then you can allow the person to go to the second item, the second set of items. Now the rule is, when you have a drill, a sub-drill must not be more than 15 minutes. You must not take a drill for more than 15 minutes. It gives boredom. Okay. Now, what are some of the techniques? One technique you can use is the endless continuum. The endless continuum or the sub-drill grouping. So you either do sub-drill grouping, that is what I've explained, the procedures, the procedure of grouping. You can group them in sub-drills, or you can have endless continuum. Now by endless continuum, what we mean is that when an item is retired, when an item is answered correctly, it is immediately replaced with a new item. So when the person answers, you have 100 questions. So the person answers question 1 correct. So it's left with 99. So question 1 goes off, and then you place question 1 with another question at the end. So you still have your 100. But then the one placed at the end must be in the, let me say, a higher difficulty level. It must have a higher difficulty level. So maybe question 1 to question 80 are for lower level. The person, so 20 to 100 is for intermediate. So when the person answers question 1, you replace question 1 at the end with an intermediate level. Then pushing, so you still have your 100, and then you recycle like that. This can also solve that problem. Okay, that problem where this can also solve that problem where you may have to have a premature termination because there are less items in the queue. Okay, let's look at how to motivate learners in drills. If you want to motivate learners, you must use games. So your drills can be in the form of game. Your drill, there can be corporate learning where students come together to answer questions, or you let them answer and see results of others. Then if you can make it a competition, it will motivate them. If you set reasonable and relevant goals, it is also going to motivate them. If you should give them progress reports, it's going to motivate. If you display and respond, if you display and have variety of responses, it also motivates. Then you must have reinforcement, it also motivates. And then the drills must be short. If they are short drills, 15 minutes, as I said, it motivates. Okay. Let's look at competition, 4 types of competition, and then we end the lecture. We have competition against learners. So you can create your drill set that they compete with other learners. So they finish, and then they can see what others have also done in the same area. They can also compete against the computer. They can also compete against oneself. That is, they take the quiz, have a score, and then they try to take it again to break their own record. And you can also take a quiz against the clock. That is, the clock will be ticking, and then you do that. So let's have this for the road. So that is all about drill and practice. Okay. So that is all about this lesson. Hope to see you in the next class.